The Bichon Frise has one of the best reputations in the dog world. Ask someone for a friendly family dog, a good apartment dog, a beginner-friendly dog, or a dog that doesn't leave enough fur behind to build a second dog, and chances are they'll mention the Bichon. At this point, the breed is recommended so often that you'd think it comes with a money-back guarantee. But is the Bichon Frise really that good? Because whenever a dog sounds almost perfect, there's usually a catch somewhere. Maybe it's stubborn, maybe it's noisy, maybe it secretly requires more maintenance than a luxury sports car. So today we're putting the Bichon Frise on trial. We'll look at why so many people love this breed, the problems owners don't always talk about, and whether this fluffy little cloud actually deserves all the praise it gets. And if you own a Bichon already, don't worry. You can save your angry comment until the end of the video. Before we start, make sure to check out our selected and recommended products linked down below. Part 1. Why people love them so much. The biggest reason the Bichon Frise has such a good reputation is simple. It's very hard to dislike one. Some dog breeds have strong personalities that instantly divide people. Huskies act like rebellious teenagers. Chihuahuas often believe they're 6 feet tall. German Shepherds can be suspicious of strangers. The Bichon Frise, meanwhile, seems to have skipped the entire stranger danger phase of dog evolution. Most Bichons are incredibly social. They don't just tolerate people, they actively seek them out. Guests walk through the front door, and the Bichon often reacts like a long-lost family member has finally returned from a 20-year expedition across the Arctic. This friendliness makes them especially popular with families. They're usually gentle around children, enjoy being involved in daily activities, and rarely come across as intimidating. If a Bichon tried to guard your house, there's a decent chance it would accidentally help the burglar carry the television to the car. They're also surprisingly adaptable. Some breeds seem to require a very specific lifestyle. A Bichon is much more flexible. Whether you live in an apartment, a suburban home, or somewhere in between, they generally adjust well as long as they're getting attention and basic exercise. Another reason people love them is that they tend to get along with other animals. Of course, every dog is an individual, but compared to many breeds, Bichons usually arrive with a fairly friendly attitude toward both humans and pets. They're not constantly looking for conflict. They're more interested in figuring out who might be willing to give them attention next. And that's really the secret behind the breed's popularity. The Bichon Frise doesn't dominate any single category. It isn't the fastest dog, the smartest working dog, or the toughest guard dog. Instead, it does something arguably more valuable. It fits into a lot of people's lives without creating a lot of problems. Sounds simple, but in the dog world, that's actually pretty rare. But being friendly and easy to live with isn't the only reason people keep recommending this breed. The next reason might be even more important, especially if you don't happen to own a farm, a mansion, or several acres of open land. Part 2. The Apartment Dog Cheat Code. One of the fastest ways to start an argument among dog owners is to ask a simple question. What's the best dog for apartment living? Within minutes, someone will mention the Bichon Frise. And honestly, there's a good reason for that. Unlike some breeds that seem to require the equivalent of a daily military training program, the Bichon is relatively easy to keep happy. They enjoy walks, playtime, and mental stimulation, but they generally don't need hours of intense exercise every single day. A border collie might spend the afternoon planning infrastructure projects. A husky might spend it plotting an escape. A Bichon is often perfectly content hanging out with its favorite humans and occasionally sprinting around the house for absolutely no reason. Scientists still haven't fully explained the random bursts of speed some dogs experience. One moment they're sleeping peacefully. The next, they're racing through the living room like they just remembered an unpaid debt from 3 years ago. The Bichon's smaller size helps too. They don't need huge amounts of space to move around comfortably. A large yard is nice, but it's not a requirement. That's one of the reasons so many city dwellers end up choosing this breed. They're also surprisingly portable. Taking a Bichon somewhere is usually a lot easier than transporting a giant breed that weighs as much as a small refrigerator. But perhaps the biggest advantage is how adaptable they are. Some dogs seem to constantly evaluate whether their living conditions meet a long list of requirements. The Bichon is often much simpler. Give it a comfortable place to sleep, some daily activity, regular interaction, and a few opportunities to convince strangers that it's adorable and it's generally satisfied. This flexibility makes the breed appealing to first-time owners as well. You're not constantly worried about whether you're providing enough space or enough exercise to prevent your dog from redecorating the entire house. Of course, that doesn't mean Bichons are low maintenance. In fact, this is where a lot of new owners make a mistake. Because people hear easy dog and assume that means the dog will happily entertain itself for hours while they disappear all day. The Bichon Frise has some thoughts about that idea, and unfortunately for its owners, it tends to express those thoughts very loudly. Part 3. The problem nobody mentions. If the Bichon Frise has a weakness, it's this. They love people a little too much. At first, that sounds like a great thing. Who wouldn't want a dog that's affectionate, loyal, and always happy to see them? Then reality arrives. Many Bichons become extremely attached to their owners. They don't just enjoy your company. They often consider your presence a requirement for proper functioning. A Bichon can spend an entire afternoon following you from room to room with the dedication of a private investigator. Kitchen, they're there. Bathroom, unfortunately, they're there too. Bedroom, still there. At some point, you start wondering if you've accidentally hired a tiny furry bodyguard. This strong attachment is one of the reasons Bichons are such lovable companions, but it can also create problems when they're left alone for long periods. Some dogs seem perfectly happy to spend several hours napping while you're away. Many Bichons are less enthusiastic about this arrangement. When boredom and loneliness combine, things can get interesting. Sometimes that means barking. Sometimes it means whining. Sometimes it means discovering that your favorite shoe apparently had emotional issues that needed to be addressed immediately. And because Bichons are smart enough to learn patterns, they quickly figure out exactly what gets your attention. Many owners unknowingly train bad habits without realizing it. Dog barks. Owner responds. Dog learns barking works. Congratulations, you've accidentally entered a business partnership. Now the dog provides noise and you provide customer service. Of course, not every Bichon develops separation anxiety. Good training, gradual independence, and proper routines can prevent many of these issues, but it's definitely one of the breed's most common challenges. This is why experienced owners often say the Bichon isn't the best choice for someone who's gone all day, every day, with very little time for interaction. The breed thrives on companionship, and when it doesn't get enough of it, it tends to file complaints with the management department. Repeatedly, very loudly. But even if your Bichon handles alone time perfectly, there's another surprise waiting for new owners. And this one comes directly from all that beautiful white fluff. Don't forget to check out our selected and recommended products. They might just be the perfect tools to make your life easier when it comes to caring for your pawed friend. Part 4. The Fluff Tax. One of the biggest reasons people choose a Bichon Frise is that it sheds very little compared to many other breeds. And that's true. But there's a detail that often gets left out. The fur doesn't just magically disappear. Nature is rarely that generous. Instead of covering your couch, your clothes, and every surface in your home with loose hair, the Bichon's coat requires regular maintenance to stay healthy and looking good. Think of it this way. Some dogs shed their problems onto your furniture. The Bichon schedules appointments. That fluffy white coat can mat surprisingly quickly if it's neglected. Small tangles turn into bigger tangles, which eventually turn into something that resembles a biology experiment. Regular brushing isn't optional, it's part of the deal. And while some owners learn to handle most grooming themselves, many choose professional groomers to keep their Bichon looking like the adorable cloud they imagined when they first brought it home. The result? A dog that looks fantastic. The cost, time, effort, and occasionally a wallet that's slightly lighter than you'd prefer. Then there's the issue of keeping that famous white coat clean. A muddy park doesn't care how expensive the grooming appointment was. Neither does a puddle, or wet grass, or whatever mysterious substance your dog somehow found and immediately decided to roll in. Bichons have a remarkable talent for locating dirt despite being one of the least intimidating animals on Earth. And because of their light-colored coats, every little stain seems determined to announce itself to the world. Some owners also deal with tear staining around the eyes, which can require additional cleaning and maintenance to keep under control. None of these things are major problems, but they are responsibilities, and they're often overlooked by people who hear phrases like low shedding and immediately assume low maintenance. Those two things are not the same, not even close. Still, despite the grooming, the attention-seeking behavior, and the occasional barking, the Bichon Frise continues to have one of the best reputations in the dog world, which raises one final question. After all the hype, all the praise, and all the fluffy propaganda, is the Bichon Frise actually worth it? Part 5. Is the Bichon Frise really that good? After everything we've covered, the answer is actually pretty simple. Yes, but probably not for the reason most people think. The Bichon Frise isn't the perfect dog. No breed is. Every dog comes with trade-offs. Some are stubborn, some are destructive, some require endless exercise, some seem determined to challenge every decision you've ever made. The Bichon simply has fewer major deal-breakers than most breeds. That's the secret. They're friendly without being intimidating, playful without needing a marathon every day, small without being fragile, affectionate without being completely impossible to train. They're one of the few breeds that fit comfortably into a huge variety of lifestyles. That's why they're recommended so often. Not because they're the best at everything, because they're pretty good at almost everything. Of course, there are people who probably shouldn't get one. If you want a serious guard dog, keep looking. If you're hoping for a highly independent dog that barely notices whether you're home, keep looking. If regular grooming sounds like a form of psychological warfare, definitely keep looking. But for families, first-time owners, apartment dwellers, retirees, and people who simply want a friendly companion, the Bichon Frise checks an impressive number of boxes. In many ways, it's the canine equivalent of choosing the reliable option. Maybe not the most exciting, maybe not the most extreme, but very hard to regret. And that's probably why so many owners become lifelong fans of the breed. Once you've lived with a good Bichon, it's easy to understand why people keep recommending them. Not because they're perfect, but because they make dog ownership feel surprisingly easy. And honestly, in a world where some breeds are actively trying to outsmart their owners on a daily basis, that's a pretty valuable quality. Now, we're curious. If you've ever owned a Bichon Frise, what was your experience like? Were they the perfect companion everyone claims they are? Or did your fluffy little angel secretly operate as a full-time chaos generator? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to Academic Doggos for more dog breed breakdowns, behavior mysteries, and the occasional reminder that every dog is at least a little weird. We'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to check out our selected and recommended products. They might just be the perfect tools to make your life easier when it comes to caring for your pawed friend.